Part of the reason that heroic small business owners are in chaos is because, man, it's really hard to empower other people. Hey, it's Scott B with the Business on Purpose podcast, special episode. My buddy Jesse Cole, he and his wife Emily founded the Savannah Bananas minor league baseball team. Just Google them, Fans First Entertainment. And whenever I get a chance to have Jesse come speak to anybody that I'm connected with, I jump on it. And not only did he come, but Jesse and his entire leadership team came as well. You talk about a special time. If you go back into the Business on Purpose podcast archives, say episode somewhere in the 80s, I believe it is, you can hear Jesse Cole's talk. But this one is a little bit different. They're both awesome. They're both great. This one you're going to have to leave changed based on what we can do to serve others through empowering a team, to liberate ourselves from chaos, but even more importantly, to push ourselves towards the vision that we have inside of us. Take a listen in, enjoy this one, archive this one, and keep coming back to it. Share it with other people. And I'll see you on the backside of this on the Business on Purpose podcast. My buddy, Jesse Cole.
Yeah, showtime. All right. How we all doing? You guys ready to rock and roll? All right. Now, yes, we start every game with a banana baby. Does it make any sense? Of course not. Most of the things at the stadium we do doesn't make sense. So who here has been to a Bananas game? Straw poll. All right, let's hear some things that you remember that stood out that was kind of unique at the game. Just throw some ideas out. Of course he did. Yes, he did. Yep, he probably deserved it. All right, what else? The first base dancing coach. Yes. Doing the moonwalk in the middle of the game. Yes. Not normal. What else? Players dance. You remember what they were dancing to? They've done a lot of weird dances. Single ladies, Beyonce. Yeah, baseball players. What else? Anything else unique at the game? Men dressing up like a woman. Yes, that's from our director of fun, Tyler Gray. He brought that in, so that was interesting. What else? Anything? A circus? The circus. Yes, it is an absolute circus. Anything else? The pep band, a 30-piece pep band playing during a baseball game. Saxophone, yes, we have a player date, goes on a date with a woman in the middle of the game, and we have a saxophone serenade them. Does that make any sense? Of course not. All right, how many people mention baseball out here? Very few. Obviously, we are about the circus, and that's what everyone thinks. They think about us, it's about entertainment. But the reality is, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes than how many people are familiar with. We got reached out to by a production film crew out of Texas, and they said they wanted to come and film the show. So they showed up for 4 days, just before opening night, and they filmed one game. They ended up producing 3 episodes, 20 minutes long, and what they covered had very little to do with the actual show. It was about fans first, and that's everything we do. So I'm going to show you a quick 1-minute clip of how this actually film ended. Their last episode just released a few days ago, and this is how it ends and kind of shares the behind the scenes of what we're all about. Scott, technology is not my friend, so.
It's always someone's first game. You know, it's not just opening night you have to film the greatest show. It's opening night for somebody coming out every single night.
Fans First means going above and beyond to make sure that the fans have a best experience.
Making them a part of the show and making them feel like being in the stands is being part of the Bananas, about being part of a baseball game, about being part of something that has never been done before. And that's what makes Fans First what it is. We're in the experience business. We're in the people business. Everything we think about is our fans and the journey and what we can do to create amazing times for them. That creates stories that people will be telling for a long time. And to us, I think that's what it's all about. Every day, people come in here, how can we create a moment that they go home and say, you won't believe what I saw at the ballpark tonight?
And so that's what they found. So they ended up covering 3 episodes, 20 minutes each. It was about the fans first experience. And that's what they shared, and that's what we've heard more than anything. To put a little context, we've only been here 3 years. And we've been so fortunate the last 2 seasons have completely sold out. But when we first came to Savannah, we weren't as welcomed in the community. I think many of you know when we first came out with the Savannah Bananas name, it wasn't liked. And let's get a straw poll here. When we first came out with the name Savannah Bananas, how many people liked it out here? Wow, okay, all right, thank you. It's worse than I thought. And it was a struggle. Many people don't know that the first few months we sold 1 season ticket. 1. And it got so bad that we went into January and we were out of money. We overdrafted our account. This was less than 3 years ago. My wife and I had to empty out our savings account. We had to sell our house and we're sleeping on an airbed. But the one thing, and some of our team who's here today, that we continue to talk about, we believed in the fans first experience. We believed it wasn't necessarily just about baseball. It was about going all in on the fans. And we got through that, and we created some attention, some of the promotions. But the reason for our success is our team that's here today, that everything they do, they put it into the fans first experience. So I'm going to teach and share how we've done that and how we've been able to empower our people to really believe in it and do everything for the fans. Now, one of my biggest mentors, probably could guess, is P.T. Barnum. And one famous quote, he said, "Something terrible happens without promotion. Nothing." And he's right. If you're not promoting anything, nothing's going to happen. However, what we promote is our story, is our fans first story. So, I think about companies right now. How many companies out there that a founder is gone, but the culture still lives on? There's only a few that I think of right now. Chick-fil-A, after Truett Cathy. Disney. 1950s, Walt Disney died. Yet still the culture lives on. That's when you can really build something special. And that's what I'm going to share today, because that's what we are working on. So, I developed an acronym. As my group knows, I like to keep everything simple. We actually have a fans first way in our core beliefs, and we do it by the alphabet. Always be caring, different, enthusiastic, fun, growing, and hungry. So I developed an acronym today, and the acronym is CARE. And this is how you can build a company to grow and build the culture without you. And it always starts with caring. So, the first letter, if anybody's taking notes, this is huge. It's communication. Now, let me ask a straw poll here. How many people in the last week in their office have heard the term a lack of communication? Anybody? All right. Yes. It's hilarious when I hear lack of communication, because right now we have more ways to communicate than we ever have. Text messages, phones, Slack, emails. Yet somehow there's still a lack of communication. The CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, said it best. He said, "We need to communicate the right things at the right times to the right people." And that's how you build a company that's successful. I'll tell you, we keep it very, very simple. We only talk about fans first. And what does that mean? And that's our decision filter. When we make decisions, is it fans first? And so I'll give you an example. We have a fans first playbook. I can share that with you guys. We talk about the fans first way. Also, everything we do, we think about what are those fans first moments that we're creating in the off season, after the games. I'll give you a great example. Our president's here with us today. When we first started, he was 24 years old. We had 3 employees just out of college. We were working on a picnic table because the former team had cut the phone lines, they cut the internet lines, they took everything out of the stadium. We were working in an abandoned storage building. We had 3 22-year-olds that came right from college. They left their home, they left their family, they were staying with us. Jared, our president, wrote letters, not to them, to their parents, saying, "I'm going to take care of your kids who are with us. Don't worry, they're in good hands. They're going to be in a great spot." It was amazing to see that leadership as a 24-year-old, and even our people still talk about that and the parents, because that shows what fans first is. When you say to anybody, our game day staff, the first day they show up, they say, "What's fans first?" I say, take care of people. Just take care. Jared, at 24 years old, was telling his parents that we were going to take care of their kids. Now, I don't think Jared warned them how tough it was going to be for those first 3 or 4 months, and that it got like this on being able to cover payroll. But that's what we did. We made sure we went through it. We try to embody this with everything. So what are you talking about in your offices? Are you talking about profits? Are you talking about revenue? Are you talking about goals, which we're going to today? Or are you talking a lot about the vision and how you're implementing that on a daily basis? Our vision is fans first, entertain always. The name of our company is Fans First Entertainment. That's what we talk about every day. And I'll give you an example. One of our members is going to share a story later on how we onboard people. But I'll share a great story. We have players that come in, and as you guys mentioned, players dancing. To get the players to buy into the culture is interesting. To think about, say, all right, guys, you're going to play baseball, but you're going to dance to Single Ladies, Beyonce, little Britney Spears. You're going to pass out roses in the crowd to little girls. You'll play a little bit of baseball. And that's what we tell them. I remember our first year back at our former team, our first practice, we had a choreographed dance instructor show up. And we're like, before we practice, guys, we got to dance. And this one guy was like, no way, I'm not doing it. So he went off, went to the bullpen, and sat there while the rest of the team is learning how to dance. So after the first few games, the players that are dancing are the most popular players by far. The fans are going nuts. They're signing all the autographs. So that guy was so upset halfway through the season, he jumps on the field, doing the jump on it dance, rips his belt off, and starts going like this in the middle. He ended up, I found out a few years ago, I saw him on a billboard in LA. He's now a male model. So that's what he turned into, which is crazy. But we get these players on board, and we share how they're about it. We talk about fans first over and over and over again. So I'm going to share a story with you. Opening night, our first game ever, Savannah Bananas at Grayson Stadium. We had no clue what we were doing. We decided we're going to serve 4,000 people all-you-can-eat food. We didn't know how we were going to do that. Of course it rained at 5 o'clock. All right, it's pouring rain. People are just flooding into the ballpark, literally. We haven't even opened the gates. We don't know what to do. The game got delayed for about an hour and a half. It started at 9 o'clock. I remember walking out in the field, and I looked around, and not one fan had left. There were 4,000 fans there. I was blown away. I was like, this is something special. But that wasn't the most special thing that happened that night. In the 7th inning, late in the game, around 11 o'clock, a young woman comes up to me and said, hey, can you get me a signed baseball? And I said, yes, thinking fans first. I'll do everything I can to get you a signed baseball. And she said, it would really mean a lot to me. I go, of course. And she goes, no, you don't understand how much this would mean to me. I'm sitting here with my fiance's family in tribute to him. He had come to every single opening night at this stadium since he was a kid. He tragically died 2 weeks ago. And we're here in tribute for him, to be here supportive of him. I was blown away. I said, I'll get you that signed baseball. She goes, there's one more thing. You have a person on your roster named Drew Moody. My fiance's name was Drew Moody. At that point, I'm blown away. Drew Moody was playing at the University of Georgia. He was still playing in the regional, so he wasn't with us at that point, but his younger brother, Logan Moody, was with us, who was 18 years old. I ran into the dugout in the middle of the game, told Logan what happened. He went, got the ball signed by every player, and he said, I want to take it to her. So he went up to the middle bleachers, sat down with her and the whole family, and stayed for a half an inning. I watched as he came down. He gave her a big hug, and he walked by me, and I said, wow, Logan, what was that? And he goes, fans first, right? And I was blown away. Here was an 18-year-old kid who had been with us for a week and knew what we were all about in creating those memories and creating those moments. Later on, that fiance came, she stayed the whole game. We played the worst game ever, just so everyone knows. We made 8 errors that night, all right? We lost bad. It was the worst baseball display I've ever seen. Yet somehow she stayed all the way till the end, and she gave me a big hug and just said, you have no idea how much this means to me. When you're communicating, you're talking about your communication in the office, what are you communicating? What are the stories that you're sharing? We share these stories over and over and over again. They're in our Fans First playbook. When someone starts with us as an intern or a game day staff, they know these stories. Do you think we share that story with the players their first day? You better believe it. That is the key. So when we're communicating, think about what you're communicating and how you're communicating it. For us, everything's fans first. Don't worry, for the emotional people here, I'm going to pick it up, okay? I'm going to get it happier, all right? I can start talking about how we give away Porta-Johns and colon cleansings if you want, all right? I can start getting into that. But the C, communication, that is the key. What are you communicating? How are you communicating it? Keep it simple, over and over and over again. The second, we're going to A, accountability. I believe accountability is the sincerest form of love. We talk about it all over and over, but we say, love your customers more than you love your product, but love your employees more than you love your customers. We believe we have an accountability and a responsibility to our customers, to our fans, every single day. I'll give you a great example. A lot of teams, they just have the same promotions every night. They have the same things over and over again. Our director of fun who's with us, Tyler Gray, every single night we put together a complete different show. Wild promotions, crazy things, everything's unique and different because that's the accountability we have for our fans that come every single night. Many people don't know this, but Ben, our director of videography and film, who's with us today, he's generated over 2 million views on Facebook. Yet every night, what people don't realize, he's filming the game, leaves, stops in the middle in the 5th inning, produces an entire film, and has it out right when the game's over. That's an accountability that he has. And we take so much pride in that because we believe that is fans first. But the reality is accountability goes much deeper than that. We're constantly thinking about what is fans first and how do we keep people accountable to that. So I'll give you a great example. Every single night, we talk after the game, what were the fans first moments that were created? And we're very, very important on this. We make sure we talk publicly about the positive, but we make sure the negative gets talked individually. So every meeting, after the games, what are the fans' first moments? What are the stories? How often as a group do you guys talk about what were the great customer moments today? That's what we share. We just recently started profit sharing in our company. And one of the big characteristics of that, one of the big keys, is how are we fans first? And so what we have from an accountability standpoint is every single Friday, the staff will send an email to our leadership and say what was something that they did fans first this week. And so not only are we trying to talk about what they did fans first this week, but also their profit share is based on that. Because if that's what you're communicating, that's what you believe matters most, how are they staying accountable to that? So it's something we're constantly focusing on is that accountability factor. Now, the question is, does everyone internalize that? Do they believe in it? Well, it starts from the beginning. Marie's going to talk a little bit about the onboarding and hiring process, but when we hire people, we have a three-step process. First thing is a video cover letter. We want to see their personality, because big thing in our Fans First way is their enthusiasm. We want to see how they're engaged with us. The next thing we want is a future resume. We don't necessarily look at the past resume. We want to know what they want to do in the future. And how do they work with us? Where's their goals? Are they hungry? Are they growing? And then the final thing is the Fans First way essay. They have to write how are they caring, different, enthusiastic, fun, growing, and hungry. When you bring people in, are they fitting with your core beliefs? Or are you just looking for a skill set? We're constantly looking for a culture fit as opposed to a skill set. So we know right away if the essay is just talking about, oh, I was caring once when I was 12 years old and I did this. All right, I'm different because I wear different shoes. We know they're not going to be a good fit. So this goes into the accountability. It starts right from the beginning. And then every week, how are they fans first? After our meetings, what were the fans first moments they delivered? I have a question for you guys. How many of you have a story bank, potentially where you keep track of all your stories of the company? Anybody? It's something we just started. And we compile all of the stories, the great fans moments, because those are the things you share over and over again. As Scott says, the vision is so important to talk about vision, your vision statement, your beliefs. But you need to talk about the stories that affirm those beliefs. And that's why we're very big on that accountability. All right, we got C for communication, A for accountability, and R, probably my favorite one, recognition. I believe in recognition as much as anything, and what's great is that the whole entire staff does it as well. I didn't mention when we were talking about the Fans First emails on Friday, how are they fans first? When we share this with the group, Marie said, who's our Fans First director, she said, it feels too selfish. I think we need to recognize someone else who was also fans first. So we implemented that. So now every week, how else was someone else being fans first from the recognition standpoint? How many people here are familiar with Sean Aker? Anybody? Happiness Advantage? It's a great TED Talk. I would look it up. Sean Aker, The Happiness Advantage. He's a Harvard professor. And what he did was, this is brilliant, he realized that people at Harvard were the most depressed, unhappy people, which is crazy. And he did a study and he found out that all these people, they were number one in the class, and then they go to Harvard and try to do this, then they try to get a good job and do this, that they kept believing that the next step would make them happier. But what he found is an interesting study was the most successful people start happy, and then they become successful. It's opposite. So instead of getting to this next level that makes you happier, you start in a happy state of mind, and you'll be more productive, more successful. It's a fascinating TED Talk and even better book. So a lot of companies reached out to Sean Aker to say, how can you help our company? One company was a cruise line. And they said, you know what, our crew seems very unhappy. And so he sent them on this ship, and he said, oh, I'd like to have my whole family. So he brought a family of 20 for a free vacation, and he interviewed the entire staff. And he said, what has been your best moment on this cruise ship? And he thought, you know, they've been to the most exotic islands. They've had the most epic parties. He said, it's got to be like that. And it wasn't. 90% of the answers from the crew, the best moment they had on the ship was when they got recognized by their supervisor. He was so blown away by this that he started finding more studies that the recognition is some of the best moments that their employees have had. So, which was really interesting, we ask our staff always, how can we make the workplace a little bit better? And what was some of your best moments? And Jonathan, our director of operations this past year, I said, what was your best moment of this year? And Jonathan runs the stadium for over 150, 200,000 people. He works his butt off. Once he did 67,000 steps in a given day, which I don't know how he stayed standing. He's amazing. But what he said, he goes, the best moment for me all year was after we hosted our first big concert. We had John Party, the country artist. And you came up to me, put your hand on my shoulder and said, Jonathan, you absolutely killed it. I am so proud of you. He goes, he went home feeling on cloud 9. I didn't think much of it. It was just a simple gesture. But it was the recognition that meant everything. So I asked you guys, how often are you recognizing, even if you're not the owner, the manager, the CEO, your regular employees, how often are you recognizing the other people in your office? A great book by Ken Blanchard was Whale Done. And he said how they train the whales at SeaWorld is what they do is when they do something well, they give them food. When they don't do anything right, they just walk away and don't even acknowledge them. In businesses, we're so often trying to catch people doing things wrong as opposed to catching people doing things right. And that is something that when you build a positive culture that can endure, you've got to continue talking about that positivity. That film, that quick 1-minute film, right before that, was a sequence of our Fans First talk after the night. And opening night this year, guys, many people don't know it, but we got killed in the sense that our food, we couldn't get it out quick enough, the lines were long. It was one of the worst service experiences that we weren't proud of. But the talk they showed, we didn't mention any of that. Again, you praise publicly, and we talked to our operations group, our food department, individually. That was key. I'll share one more story, and he's here today as well, about recognition. Often companies, I think they do gift cards, they do money, you know. Find out what really matters to your people. Find out if they can go, what exotic trips would, what are their most important things, you know, what are the things they want to do with their family, their best friends. And about 3 years ago, Danny, our vice president now, fought hard to get a job with us. And guys, this was the point when we only sold 1 ticket in 2 months. We didn't have money to afford anybody. And he was emailing every single week, calling us, trying to get a job. And we were like, we don't have anything, but we'll give you a shot. And he started hitting the phones, calling everyone in the community, trying to get them to buy tickets and believe in us. And it was a tough couple months until we finally came out with Savannah Bananas. And Danny worked so hard that year that he was single-handedly one of the biggest reasons why we were able to sell out almost all of our games the opening season. But more importantly, Danny helped raise over $40,000 to local nonprofits that first year with a fundraising program he adapted. Now, through 3 years, it's over $250,000, and Danny's a huge part of that. But after that first season, we were like, wow, Danny really made an impact for our team. We got to do something. Now, Danny's from Cleveland, and if you know Cleveland, for some reason, they love their sports teams, even though they're terrible, all right? Let's talk about the Browns. They're bad, Danny, and it's the truth. They're horrible, all right? But he loved his teams, and for some reason, the Indians were having a good year a couple years ago. And they were going all the way through the playoffs, and they were going to the World Series. And my wife and I had an idea. So we brought the whole staff together, and we had them for a staff chat, and we said, Danny, we have a gift for you. And so we gave him this toy airplane. And I said, Danny, this represents how far you've gone with the company, how far you're going, and how you're taking everyone with you. And he looked and said, oh, okay, that's great. And I said, Danny, there's also one other thing. There's one thing that he had that we knew in Cleveland, Big bond was him and his father was the Cleveland Indians. He cried, Danny, watching the 1997 World Series when they lost the game. That's how big of a fan he is, and his dad's as big as a fan as well. So we said, Danny, there's one more thing. You get that toy airplane, but also we're flying you to Game 1 of the World Series tomorrow morning. You're going with your dad. And we filmed his reaction. His first reaction was, shut up, all right? So he yelled at us, which was nice. And then you could see Danny actually get a little emotional in the video, and he couldn't believe it. And the greatest moment that we saw was the entire staff started cheering. There was no greed, there was no jealousy, there was no why isn't this me? They knew Danny deserved it, and they wanted to recognize him. When we called his dad got emotional. And when they went to the game, they were the first ones there. They were in the stadium before anyone else, and they got to see Game 1 of the World Series. My question is, how many moments when you recognize your people do you look at things like that? Was that cheap? No. Was it 100% worth it? You better believe it. So when you look at recognizing, recognize what really matters to the people. And we're continuing to try to look at that, and that's why we're asking all these questions, to get to know really what means something to them. That recognition goes a long way. So I'll tell you, when you're building your culture, now we constantly ask, I talked to Jared, our president, before our staff chat, Jared, who are we recognizing today? You guys, most companies do this to an extent. When you guys have your meetings, how often does it open with recognition? Some of you guys? Good, good. That's huge. It goes a long way. Continue to build that. So the R, the recognition, amazing. Final one, anyone to guess? E. Any guesses? Excitement? Yeah, I like that one. What's that? Encouragement? Engagement. A lot of good E's. All right, I'll do a few of them. Empowerment. This is the final one. And we, I'll be very open, are still working on this. If you can empower your people to not just own the task, but to own the result and own the outcome, you can be unstoppable. And that's how you build an enduring business, is you are able to empower. And I'll share a couple stories on how we've been working on empowering. And I know, Scott, a few of you guys love the Kiki story, so I will share the Kiki story. Because when you come to empowerment, you have to be able to let go. And it's scary to let go, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I am as guilty as anyone and not being the best at letting go. But sometimes you just have to. In our first year, we had a young intern, Kiki, who started with us and was just very, very shy. She had a great smile. She was always walking around, a lot of enthusiasm, but she was just shy and introverted. And you could tell there was something there that she wasn't letting out. So halfway through the season, I said, Kiki, we would love for you to sell some beer at this game. So she goes, sell beer? And I go, yeah, just sell beer, but I want you to get into it. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, well, just yell, beer here, get your beer. Just yell. And she's like, okay, I'll do my best. So halfway through the game, I'm walking through the concourse, and there's a beer station on the plaza. And I see this line going all the way out. And I'm like, what is going on? And I turn the corner, and I hear Kiki going, get tipsy with Kiki. She had so much sass, so much energy, and the line just kept going. It was the biggest night we ever did in beer at that station. It was the most tips anybody's ever got. And I came to Kiki after the game, oh, Kiki, what was that? She goes, I was just having fun. I go, do that all the time. So the next day, I go, Kiki, keep doing this. So she answers the phone. Savannah Bananas, this is Kiki. She's literally answering the phone and singing songs. People start coming to the door. She jumps out of her seat. She gives them a hug. She shakes their hand. She starts giving an unbelievable first impression when people come out. So where does the empowerment come in? Well, at the end of the season, I was the best man in a wedding. Now, I continued thinking maybe I should take away that title, because if I was really his best man and he cared about me, he wouldn't get married during the championship of the Savannah Bananas. But he decided to anyways. So my wife and I had to fly up to Maine. And my wife at the point was handling all of our hiring, handling all of our staff, game day staff, over 100 plus people. And Emily saw Kiki's enthusiasm and said, Kiki, I want you to take control of the staff for this. And Kiki, okay, I'll do my best. She took over the staff for the championship, and we watched her just unbelievably come to life. And she owned it. She was 22 years old at that point, overseeing a staff of over 100. Now Kiki's 24. She oversees a staff of 150 people. And she's our director of first impressions and one of the most amazing leaders I've ever seen. That's because of empowerment. And then another story, I'm going to make him feel uncomfortable. It's right here with Barry Aldridge. Barry was an intern. And if you're getting themes, how many people have interns here? Start with interns, guys. They're amazing, all right? We start with these interns, and they really get to learn the culture. And if you look at our staff, 70% started as interns. So Barry's an intern again that first year, and he was in our promotions and working on putting on a show for the fans. And halfway there, there was another tragedy that hit. And Barry came to us. He found a ticket order. Someone had bought 8 tickets to our upcoming game. And for some reason, he couldn't get in touch with the people who bought the tickets to make sure they were covered. And if you guys know, part of our Fans First experience, we call every single person that buys tickets and thank them and try to let them know that we appreciate them. But he couldn't get in touch. So he kept trying. Eventually, a couple days before the game, the husband called us and said, "I'm so sorry. My wife had bought these tickets for our 7 kids, but she just tragically passed away." And Barry immediately came into my office and said, "Jesse, we have to do something." And I said, "Barry, what do you think?" And he started thinking. He goes, "Well, can we present the husband with a jersey? Can we make the kids have the best VIP experience they've ever had?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "You own this. This is yours." Again, just an intern at that point. Called the husband, got him to come to, said, "Yes, we'll come." Husband came, brought their 7 kids. Before the game, we had a player deliver a jersey with her name and the amount of years that they were married, and gave all the kids mini bats and signed balls. They had the best seats in the house. They stayed for the whole game and had an amazing experience. Afterwards, when Barry spoke to the husband, he said that was the last gift the mother ever gave the kids, and I couldn't imagine a better gift for our kids. That is someone taking ownership, someone empowered to make a difference and understand what really matters. And those are these stories that we continue to tell. That's the Fans First. Sorry for the emotions. All right, do you need some more tissues? Are you okay? All right. Again, I can talk about some crazy things, all right? If you want me to, I'll get into some even weirder things. All right, for the record, during a game this year, we wore kilts, because that doesn't make sense, St. Patrick's Day, so we wore kilts during a game this year, and our first hitter who got a double, he's running into second base, and all of a sudden he gets to second, and he lifts up his kilt at the fans. So those are weird things that has nothing to do with empowerment, but I'm trying to make light in the mood for you, okay? All right. Here we go. So, care, communication, accountability, recognition, and empowerment. And I'll tell you when it comes full circle. Here's a story that tells you full circle, and it's about caring. You know, when you come to our games, has any of you guys seen a penguin outside at our games? All right, there are parking penguins. Does it make sense to have people dressed up as penguins? Of course not, but I thought it'd be funny if they're waving people to their spots dressed up as penguins. The whole experience, they come in, they see the band, our players are outside, we have staff in banana costumes. We try to really make that first experience great. So after last season, my wife and I were having it was a team barbecue picnic. So we got invited and we're pulling in. And all of a sudden, as we're pulling into Sarah's house, we see 2 penguins dressed up, guiding us through the driveway. And Emily's like, "What the heck is going on?" So we pull in, and all of a sudden Kiki opens the door. Our director of first impressions says, "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Cole." I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" So then we walk over and we see Barry, our director of tickets, at a table, and he hands us 2 tickets, all-you-can-eat wristbands, and says, "This way." And then we go to the door, and there's a person in a banana costume, one of our staff members, rips our tickets. At this point, we're sufficiently confused. Then we walk through, and all of a sudden, they take us to a private dining table in the back. They have flowers. They have our music of our favorite playlist playing. They have lights set up in a private little dining area. They sit us down, and our president walks out, dressed up in this ridiculous suit, not yellow, thank goodness, a ridiculous suit with a tie on and a bow tie, and he says, "Mr. and Mrs. Cole, we have your favorite dinner. Our staff is preparing it right for you now." And so then they gave us our favorite drinks. They come out and deliver steak, shrimp. It's this amazing dinner while our music's playing. My wife is like, "This is amazing." They said, "We want to give you the Fans First experience that you've given us." So we're blown away. Then it just keeps going. After the dinner and an amazing dessert, they bring us an iPad. And it's an iPad with videos of everyone on our staff telling us how much we mean to them and the impact that we've made on their life. At this point, my wife's bawling her eyes out. And they're saying this video, and we're blown away. And then they come out with a personalized book a full book with pictures from the seasons, quotes from fans, everything. I said, this is yours. You guys really made a huge impact on our life. At this point, Emily's really crying. We go out and we thank the entire staff. And as we're getting ready to leave, we say, all right, guys, thank you so much. And then they go, oh, we got to exit greet, because that's a big thing that we do. So they lined up the entire staff as we walked to our car. They all gave us hugs and told us that they loved us. That was one of the most special things that I will never, ever forget. And I believe that is when you come full circle. When you can create that in your culture, that is something that will go on for many years without you. So I know here, I didn't talk about all the craziness, but this is the behind the scenes. When that film crew came for 4 days, that's what they found. And I'll tell you, if you really want to stand out, it's stand out in your fan experience, not just for your customers, but your employees. I'll say it again, but love your customers more than your product, but love your employees more than your customers. And it's what you're communicating every single day that matters most. My mentor, P.T. Barnum, said, the noblest art is that of making others happy. So every day, what are you doing to make others happy in the office, surrounding yourself with positive people, and stand out by caring more and always having fun? Thank you, guys.
So can you stand out, have fun, care more? Are those things even possible in a modern workplace? I want to challenge you to try. Go to mybusinessonpurpose.com/webinar if we can help you out. We'll see you next time right here on the Business on Purpose podcast.